Just about every week, we get asked the question about measuring impact. How do instructional coaches walk away from their work knowing how they impacted student and teacher learning? And in this video, I'll be introducing our favorite tool for that. We call it the results-based coaching tool. And I'm Diane Sweeney, and I'm the author of Student-Centered Coaching, Student-Centered Coaching the Moves, and Leading Student-Centered Coaching. And I thought I'd just spend a few minutes introducing the tool to you and also giving you some ways that you can get additional information. So the results-based coaching tool is really about measuring the impact of a coaching cycle. And a coaching cycle for us is about 4 to 6 weeks of work that's aligned with an instructional unit of study. So it's content driven, and we always start out a coaching cycle developing a success criteria that is really a cluster or collection of student-friendly learning targets that tell us what does proficiency look like. So that's the first big piece of measuring our impact, is having clarity on what you want students to know and do by the end of the unit, which the coach and teachers will be working through together. And this could be a team of teachers, an individual teacher, a pair of teachers. And so what happens is the tool just embeds right into the coach's work. It's not a separate process, it's not a separate form, and the tool itself is a form, but we're working on automating that as we speak, and there should be some fun announcements about that in the future. But for now, it's just a one-pager that really tracks the progress across the coaching cycle. So we start with collecting the goal, understanding what do we want kids to know and do. And then as the cycle progresses, the coach and teacher just keep track of what instructional practices are they trying. What are the things they're doing together to make sure that kids are learning. And so these things could be simple strategies for student discourse or dialogue. It could be that we tried Socratic seminar to get kids talking about text. It could be that we used some number talks to support kids' conceptual number sense development. It could be that we use conferring with young readers. So the instructional practices, we keep a close eye on those, and we make sure that we're supporting teachers to implement those. And those are documented right alongside the student learning aspects on the results-based coaching tool. The biggest piece to understand when it comes to monitoring our impact is understanding the student and teacher growth. So we really begin our coaching cycle with a pre-assessment. Once we have those learning targets established, we then quickly decide how we're going to get some formative assessment data that tells us where the kids are right now. And we even like to get it down to levels of proficiency. In other words, how many students were proficient, how many students weren't, what was the assessment that was used. Typically, it's very open-ended and formative in nature. So it's not another test. It's not us giving a summative at the beginning. It could be one math problem. It could be reading one text and thinking against it. It could be annotating a text. It could be a running record from, for younger readers to see what strategies they're using. So it's always going to be an open-ended assessment because we really want to learn what kids know. But we also want to get down to the sheer rate of proficiency early in the cycle. And then as the coach and teacher work alongside each other, or even a team of teachers, they are going to know at the end of the cycle we'll do another post-assessment. The post-assessment may be very similar because, again, it was so open-ended. Read another text, respond to it. It's not as if we're giving this big test at the end. We're just really trying to make sure kids are secure in those learning targets. So sometimes there's a few who aren't. Sometimes we get to a level of proficiency that isn't 100%, even though we always aim for that because we want to say all kids can, first of all, and we're shooting for full-blown proficiency and mastery. But if there's a few students who don't get there by the end of the coaching cycle, because likely the unit may be ending as well, then what we want to do is come up with a plan. How do we continue to support those students? On average, we find that our coaching cycles usually get to us to almost 80-85% proficiency, and this has come from a lot of studies across, for example, across the state of Iowa, where we collected results-based coaching tools from hundreds of coaches and looked at their rates of proficiency. So we want to see high rates of proficiency. And so if your coaching cycle is on writing informational, or a short piece of informational text, that means we want to see the students all being able to do those learning targets or that success criteria that we decided together was what proficiency would look like. So we want to see text structures being used in a way to engage readers. We want to see information shared about your topic that's interesting to readers. We want to see some strategies done to do a little research to expand your knowledge base or your schema beyond what you already know about whatever your topic is. So you can see those things that are on, or those learning targets that are on your success criteria really are what we're shooting for. So at the end of the coaching cycle then, we'll do a end of cycle reflection. Sometimes we call it an exit interview. In that conversation, we sit down with teachers, could be an individual or a team or a pair of teachers, and we discuss what was your growth, what instructional practices are you using now, and what was the student growth. Where did we end up with that post-assessment? And that's meant to be a huge celebration, and it always is, because growth always happens when you're collaborating so thoughtfully. And again, if we don't have that full-fledged growth, we're going to come up with a plan for what to do next. So we don't use these results-based coaching tools punitively at all. It's obviously meant to be some celebratory way that we make sure we're all on point and we're moving our kids along. There are things that districts do to collate these and to share the data. That's all kind of district by district. It's also different between and among coaches about how they use the tool. Some use it off to the side, some use it directly with teachers, some share it as a Google Doc and work collaboratively to record their information. But in the end, what we expect when we work with coaches in districts that we serve is that they are measuring their cycles. And if you work with us, you'll find that we are not vague on that. It's that we have to be measuring our impact. And if we're not, then we're missing a major piece of our obligation in our coaching work. And sometimes it can be tricky. Coaches need a little time to learn how to use the tool. And that's what this video is about. And also, I'd recommend the other videos on YouTube on my channel that are all about coaching cycles, because those will also support coaches to understand how to measure their impact. So another place to look for more information about how to use the results-based coaching tool is any chapter. There's a chapter in each of my books on this topic. So you can dig in there, and there's also been blogs I've written on the subject. So hopefully this was helpful and that you feel more prepared to measure your impact. And remember, we're always measuring based on how the kids grew and how the teacher grew. So for now, I'll sign off. My name is Diane Sweeney, and I'm glad that you listened and that you were here. And here's to your coaching.